Hello, everyone. My name is Alex. I'm 28 years old, and I come from Argentina. But just 5 months back, I struggled to form a complete sentence in English, not even something simple like, "What's your name?" without a lot of hesitation. I felt totally clueless. Today, I want to share with you how I mastered English in only 5 months without any costly courses, without moving to an English-speaking nation, and without spending my time on ineffective techniques. But this isn't just my personal story. This is your story as well. If you have ever felt discouraged, stuck, or humiliated because of your English skills, keep listening because I was in the exact same position you are in now. And I promise, if you follow my entire journey step by step, you will understand precisely how to enhance your English. So, let's travel back to the start because my journey didn't begin with inspiration. It began with a major setback that transformed my life. The moment that changed everything. I always dreamed of working for a global organization. My ideal job was to be a project manager at a large multinational firm. I loved organizing projects. I was skilled at it, and I worked tirelessly day and night to become the best. Finally, after many years of dedication, I got my opportunity. I applied for a major company in the U.S. The hiring manager sent me an email that said, "We're pleased to inform you. You've been chosen for an interview." I was absolutely thrilled. I started picturing my new life in a different city, with a high salary, collaborating with top professionals. But then the interview took place. I remember it as if it were yesterday. I opened the video call, and there were 3 interviewers, all native English speakers. They began talking, and I felt like someone had hit the fast-forward button on their speech. I couldn't comprehend a single thing. They asked me the first question, "Alex, can you tell us a little about yourself and your experience in project management?" I panicked. I knew the response in my mind, but the words wouldn't come out. I said, yeah, I am a project. I manage projects, many clients, successful. I am very successful." They looked at me. The silence felt like a dagger in my gut. They asked another question, but I couldn't respond to that one either. In the end, one of them smiled and said, "All right, Alex, thank you for your time." I understood what that implied. I had failed. I didn't get the position not because I wasn't qualified in my area, but because I couldn't communicate in English. That day, I recognized the importance of English. It wasn't just a language, it was the key to my dream, and at that moment, I didn't possess that key. I felt disappointed, humiliated, furious with myself. For years, I told myself, I don't need English. I'll just excel at my career, and that will be sufficient. But now I saw the reality. Without English, I was invisible. That evening, I made a choice. I would learn English, and I would learn it quickly. Most people, when they begin learning English, do one thing first. They sign up for expensive courses. But I didn't do that. Why? Because I had already attempted them before, and they were ineffective. A year ago, I enrolled in an online English class. The instructor made me memorize word lists, complete grammar drills, and study tedious rules. But after 3 months, when I tried to have a conversation, I still couldn't speak. So, I knew that expensive courses were not the solution. If I wanted to learn English rapidly, I needed a different approach. I needed a system that worked in practical situations, and that's when I started my 5-month method, which I will share with you now, step by step. Part 1. The first 15 days. The biggest error that new learners make is thinking they need more vocabulary. I thought the same. I believed if I learn 1,000 words, I will speak fluently. But the reality is, I already knew hundreds of words, yet I still couldn't speak. So, for the first 15 days, I didn't study any new words. Instead, I did something much more effective. I started learning how to use the words I already knew. Here's exactly what I did. 1. I created an essential sentence list. I sat down and thought, what do I actually need to express every day? I wrote 50 simple sentences that I needed in real life. For example, hello, how are you? Could you say that again? I don't comprehend. I am studying English. I need some water, please. Every morning, I read these 50 sentences aloud, not once, not twice, but 10 times. At first, my tongue felt clumsy, but after 5 days, these sentences became automatic. 2. I began talking to myself in English every single day. This is one of the most powerful things I did. Whenever I was alone, I spoke English to myself. For example, when I was in the shower, I said, I am brushing my teeth. The water is cold. I feel refreshed. When I prepared breakfast, I said, I am making toast. I like toast. It's simple to prepare. At first, I felt silly, but then I realized this was my private practice space. No one could hear me. No one could criticize me. And in just 1 week, my brain started processing in English. 3. I practiced 5 sentences a day, but with a unique twist. Every day, I selected 5 sentences from films or real discussions, but I didn't just read them. I copied them precisely. I repeated them 10 times, but with the same emotion, pace, and intonation as the native speaker. This helped me correct my accent and sound more natural. By the end of the first 15 days, something shifted. I stopped translating in my head. I could say basic sentences without hesitation, and I felt more self-assured. But this was just the beginning, because after 15 days, I started the real practice. Part 2. The real practice begins. After 15 days of correcting my biggest mistake, I was finally prepared to take the next step. I could say basic sentences without thinking, and I felt more confident, but I knew this wasn't enough. I didn't want to just say short phrases. I wanted to have genuine conversations. I wanted to understand native speakers without translating in my head. I wanted to speak fluently. So, I created a new plan. This plan would transform everything. If you follow it, you will improve faster than you ever imagined possible. I realized something important. When I tried to speak English, my brain was slow. I knew words, but I couldn't combine them quickly. I needed a way to make speaking feel natural. I started using a method that I now call the question-answer technique. This method is simple but effective. Here's how it works. 1. I asked myself a simple question in English. 2. I answered it immediately without overthinking. 3. I repeated the process with different responses. For example, I started with an easy question. How was your day? At first, my answer was short. It was good, but I forced myself to say more. It was good because I finished my work. It was good because I finished my work early. It was good because I finished my work early, so I had time to relax. It was good because I finished my work early, so I had time to relax and read a book. Every time I answered, I added more specifics. This trained my brain to think in English and speak without pausing. Another example. What did you have for lunch? First answer. I ate a sandwich. Then, I ate a sandwich and a salad. I ate a sandwich, salad, and an apple. I ate a sandwich, salad, and an apple because I was really hungry. I ate a sandwich, salad, and an apple because I was really hungry and I enjoy having a substantial lunch. I did this every single day for at least 30 minutes. My speaking speed improved significantly. My sentences became longer, and I stopped translating in my head. One of my biggest challenges was my accent. Even when I spoke English, I still sounded like a non-native speaker. Native speakers understood me, but my pronunciation was heavy. So, I used the repetition technique. This is the best way to improve pronunciation without a tutor. Here's how it works. 1. I listen to a native speaker from films, YouTube, or audio programs. 2. I pause the audio after each sentence. 3. I repeated the sentence exactly the same way, same speed, same tone, same emotion. For example, I took a short clip from a film. The character said, "I have no idea what you mean." I paused and repeated, "I have no idea what you mean." At first, it felt challenging, but after repeating 10 times, my voice started to sound similar to the native speaker. Another example from a podcast. The sun was shining, so I thought I'd go for a stroll. I paused and repeated, "The sun was shining, so I thought I'd go for a stroll." I did this every day for 30 minutes. After 1 month, my pronunciation improved so much that even native speakers started saying, "Wow, your English sounds really authentic." I knew that vocabulary was important, but I also knew that memorizing word lists doesn't work, so I needed a better method. I used the narrative technique. Here's how it works. 1. I took 5 new words every day. 2. I created a short story using all 5 words. 3. I read the story out loud 10 times. 4. I used the words in my real conversations. Example: new words: nervous, appointment, meeting, traffic, late. My story: I was very nervous because I had an important appointment for a meeting. When I was stuck in traffic, I was worried I would be late. I did this every day. After 3 months, I had learned over 1,000 new words without memorizing anything. One of the biggest problems learners have is that they think in their native language first, then translate into English. This makes speaking slow and artificial. So, I trained my brain to think in English. Here's how. 1. I described everything around me in English. Example: when I walked outside, I said in my mind, "The clouds are white, the temperature is cool. I see cars driving. That woman is wearing a blue coat." 2. I asked myself questions and answered in English. Example: what am I doing right now? I am sitting at a table, drinking tea, and typing on my computer. 3. I wrote my daily journal in English. Every night, I wrote about my day in English. At first, I wrote simple sentences, but after 1 month, my writing became more fluid. After a few weeks, I noticed something incredible. I was no longer translating. English words came naturally into my mind. One of the things I did was simple but powerful. I made a rule. Every day, I had to speak English for at least 2 hours, no excuses. If I had no one to talk to, I talked to myself. If I didn't have time, I spoke while doing daily activities: cooking, cleaning, walking. If I felt unmotivated, I reminded myself, English is my future. I cannot stop. Part 3. My final breakthrough. Now that I had developed the habit of listening and repeating, I wanted to challenge myself further. But I also realized something very important. Just listening and speaking wouldn't be enough if I didn't understand the grammar and structure of English properly. I didn't want to make errors that could confuse people, and I definitely wanted to sound more natural. I started observing the way native speakers constructed their sentences. Every time I heard a sentence, I didn't just repeat it. I asked myself, why is this sentence structured like this? For example, I heard people say, I've been waiting for 2 hours, but in school, I had learned, I am waiting for 2 hours. That was my first major realization. The English we learn in school is often different from the English people actually use. So, I started researching the differences. I learned about tenses in practical use. When do people use the present perfect tense? Why do they say I've been waiting instead of I am waiting? I found that small details like these made a huge difference in sounding natural. I wrote down common sentence structures and tried using them in my daily practice. One of my biggest challenges was prepositions. On the train but in the car? Why? At night but in the morning? Why? I kept a small notebook and wrote down confusing prepositions with examples. Whenever I had questions, I searched for answers online or listened to how native speakers use them. To take it further, I started writing a daily diary in English. Every night, I wrote about my day. At first, my writing was very basic. Today I went to the office. I was busy. I ate pasta. It was tasty, but I wanted to improve, so I asked myself, how do native speakers write? I read blogs, books, and news articles and noticed how they structured their sentences. Then, I tried to copy that style in my diary. One thing that really accelerated my learning was shadowing. I found videos of native speakers, put on headphones, and repeated every word immediately after them, matching their speed and pronunciation. I did this for at least 20 minutes a day. In just a few weeks, my pronunciation improved dramatically. Another trick that helped me was watching English films with subtitles. But instead of just watching passively, I paused after every sentence and repeated it. I focused on pronunciation, tone, and rhythm. Slowly, my English started sounding more natural. At this stage, I realized something crucial. English is not just about words and grammar. It's also about confidence. Many people know English, but are too afraid to speak. I made a decision. I would not be scared of making mistakes. I started speaking to people in English whenever I got the chance, at work, at the shop, with friends. I spoke even when I was uncertain, and I noticed something surprising. People understood me, even if I made small errors. They didn't mock me. This gave me the confidence to continue. But then I faced my biggest fear, talking to native English speakers. I was terrified that they wouldn't understand me or that I would freeze. So, I came up with a strategy. I prepared 10 common conversation topics and practiced them every day. How was your weekend? What do you do for a living? What's your favorite hobby? I practiced answering these questions fluently. Then I took the plunge. I joined an online community where people from different countries practiced English. At first, I was anxious, but soon I realized everyone was there to learn, just like me. I made friends from different countries, and we practiced together. This not only improved my English, but also made learning enjoyable. As I reached the final stage of my English learning journey, I felt an unshakable confidence growing inside me. I was no longer the same person who had been rejected because of poor English skills. I had transformed myself step by step through consistent effort, practice, and the right attitude. Now, I want to share the last and most important lessons I learned so that you too can achieve fluency. One day, I was speaking to myself in the mirror, as I had done so many times before, but this time something was different. I wasn't hesitating, I wasn't translating in my head. The words were flowing naturally. It felt like magic, but in reality, it was the result of months of effort. That same day, I decided to test my progress by having a deep conversation with a native speaker. I joined an online meeting where people from different countries discussed various topics. At first, I was nervous, but I reminded myself, I've worked too hard to doubt myself now. And then I spoke. The words came out clearly, confidently. I didn't struggle to find the right words. I understood what others were saying without feeling lost. People listened to me, nodded in agreement, and even asked me questions. It was an incredible moment. That was the day I knew I had achieved fluency. 5 months after I started my journey, I applied for my dream job again. This time, I wasn't the same Alex who had entered nervously months ago. I wasn't the guy who hesitated, who felt insignificant, who couldn't find the right words. No, this time I walked into that interview room with confidence. I sat in front of the interviewer not as someone who feared English, but as someone who had mastered it. I spoke clearly. I answered every question with ease. I wasn't just speaking English. I was commanding it. And I could see it in their eyes. They were impressed, not just with my language, but with my effort, my persistence, my transformation. A few days later, I got the call, and I will never forget that moment. Alex, congratulations, you've got the position. For a second, I couldn't believe it. My dream job. The same company that had rejected me before, but now they wanted me. My starting salary was £4,000 a month, more than I had ever imagined earning. I just stood there, holding my phone, shaking, my eyes full of tears. The first thing I did was call my parents. Mom, Dad, I did it. My mother started crying on the other end. My father, a man who rarely shows emotions, simply said, "We always knew you could." And in that moment, I realized I wasn't just doing this for me. I was doing it for them too. With my first salary, I bought my father a beautiful leather jacket, something he had always wanted but never bought for himself. For my mother, I bought an elegant scarf. She had sacrificed so much for me, for our family, and now it was my turn to give back. When I handed them the gifts, they refused at first. "We don't need anything, son," they said. But I shook my head. "No, this is my way of saying thank you. Thank you for believing in me even when I didn't believe in myself." And that was the moment I understood it was all worth it. Every struggle, every late night, every moment of frustration, every time I felt like giving up, it was all worth it. Key lessons from my journey. Now, let me share the most important things I learned in my journey that helped me become fluent in English in just a few months. Lesson 1. Your attitude is the foundation. Most people fail to learn English because they believe they can't. I used to think the same way, but the moment I changed my mindset, everything changed. I told myself, English is not difficult. I can learn it just like any other skill. I stopped saying, I am bad at English, and started saying, I am improving every day. If you think you can't do it, you won't. But if you believe you can, you will find a way. Lesson 2. Make English a part of your world. I made English a part of my daily life. I changed my phone's language to English. I watched only English content. I listened to English songs even if I didn't understand all the lyrics, and I followed English-speaking influencers on social media. Every day, I was feeding my brain with English. I also made sure to speak and think in English. Whenever I looked at an object, I would name it in English. If I saw a bicycle, I would say, "That's a red bicycle, it's moving quickly." Small things like this help me build my vocabulary naturally. Lesson 3. Speaking without fear. Many people are afraid of making mistakes, but mistakes are part of learning. I used to be scared of speaking, but then I realized native speakers don't care if you make mistakes. They appreciate your effort. So, I forced myself to speak. I spoke to shop assistants in English. I asked strangers for directions in English. And I even started talking to myself in English whenever I was alone. The more I spoke, the better I became. Lesson 4. Active listening and shadowing. Listening is just as important as speaking. I trained my ears to understand spoken English by listening to English podcasts, audiobooks, and conversations. But I didn't just listen passively. I practiced shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a sentence and repeating it immediately, mimicking the pronunciation and rhythm. This helped me improve my accent and fluency. Lesson 5. Expanding my vocabulary smartly. At first, I tried memorizing long lists of words, but I quickly realized that was useless. Instead, I learned words in context. I focused on phrases instead of single words. For example, instead of memorizing the word happy, I learned phrases like, "I feel so happy today," and "that song made me really happy." Learning in context made it easier to remember and use words naturally. Lesson 6. Grammar without books. I didn't spend hours studying grammar books. Instead, I learned grammar naturally by listening and speaking. When I made a mistake, I noted it and corrected myself. For example, I used to say, "She have a cat." When someone corrected me, I understood the correct sentence. She has a cat. The best way to learn grammar is by using the language, not memorizing rules. Lesson 7. Consistency over perfection. Some people try to learn everything perfectly before they start speaking. That's a mistake. I didn't wait until I was perfect. I started speaking from day one. Even when I only knew a few words, I used them. I made a rule. Every day, I will do something in English. Some days I spoke for 10 minutes. Some days I wrote a short paragraph. Some days I listened to a podcast. The key was consistency. Even on days when I felt unmotivated, I still did something. You don't need expensive classes. You don't need a perfect environment. You just need a strong desire and a commitment to practice every day. Imagine yourself 6 months from now, speaking English fluently, confidently. Imagine the opportunities that will come your way. Imagine how proud you will feel. Start today. Speak, listen, practice, and never give up. Your future self will thank you. This is not just about learning English. It's about changing your life. And now, I want to say something to you. If I can do it, you can do it too. It doesn't matter where you start. It doesn't matter how bad you think your English is. What matters is that you start today, right now. I know it's difficult. I know it feels impossible sometimes. But trust me, the only thing standing between you and fluency is consistency. Stop doubting yourself. Stop making excuses. Surround yourself with English. Speak, listen, read, write every single day. Make mistakes, learn from them, improve. Because here's the truth. The pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret lasts forever. So what will you choose? Choose discipline. Choose growth. Choose success. Your journey to fluency starts now. If this story inspired you, like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'll be with you every step of the way. Let's do this together.